Guys, welcome back to the channel. So, interesting week last week on all tours across the board. We had a big event over in Europe, the flagship
huge
event over at Wentworth, the BMW. Great win for Francesco Molinari.
That's right, yeah.
Just Rory couldn't quite get it done on the weekend, and
not a bad Sunday round, just not low enough. You need to go a little lower.
Both the Saturday and Sunday rounds, he just couldn't quite get it going early. Had a decent back nine both days, but left himself with a little bit too much work to do. And Molinari never made a bogey over the weekend, so that's steady. Always going to be tough. He is steady.
He's very steady.
That's kind of a real kind of home for him in that area. He actually worked with Dennis Pugh, the renowned European English coach out of the Wisley Golf Club, not far at all from Wentworth, and so he knows that area so well, and obviously Rory plays well there. He's won there before. So
it's a favourite of his for sure.
Yeah, it's just too bad he couldn't get the win, couldn't get it done over the weekend. I mean, Alex Norton, I don't know if you saw the interview after he played with Rory on the first day, and he said by far the best round he's ever seen.
Yeah, I saw some of his highlights were wild. Yeah.
He said he's like, I don't know how someone can play any better than that.
That's
crazy. It was close to perfect.
Wow.
So Rory's game looks like it's pretty close for him. It's always about can he get the putts in, can he sort of get his scoring boots on. So pretty good over there. A real personal favourite of mine over the weekend was the win for Paul Broadhurst on the PGA Seniors Tour. Yeah. So Paul is someone I used to work with at TaylorMade. Used to get to see him when he would come up to work with his coach up in Edinburgh, and so got to know him very well and helped him with a little bit of equipment stuff from time to time,
very cool.
Which was really, really nice. So he's carved a great career for himself on the Seniors Tour.
Yeah.
Was one of those kind of journeymen on the European Tour. Now he's got 2 majors to his name, which is phenomenal.
Lots of guys have had. I mean, there are obviously players that had amazing careers and then continued.
That's right.
Like Bernhard Langer, for example. But you get the guy that was sort of an average tour player, gets to the Senior Tour and just goes lights out all the time.
That's whether it's just the setup, whatever it is. So great to see Paul. I was really, really pleased for him over the weekend. And on the PGA Tour, we had Justin Rose back in the winning circle, and that's the bag we're going to focus on.
We're going to look at Justin Rose's bag,
Yeah, Rosie's one of those kind of real elite players in the game of golf. Good to see him back winning. We've talked a little bit, I think, about him on a few of the why in the bags in terms of being in the contention. When he I think when he was in contention, won the Florida swing events, and we talked to him not quite getting it done. So good that we can focus a little bit in his bag.
For sure, and it's an all TaylorMade bag.
All TaylorMade bag.
Top to bottom.
Yeah, he's been one of the flagship guys at TaylorMade for years
forever
now. Yeah, forever. I think he's literally since he came out on tour, he's been solely with TaylorMade.
Yeah.
Made a few recent changes to the bag. Never one who's afraid of tinkering.
No, and we've probably chatted about the shaft changes that he's made all year since last year. So he's definitely a guy that isn't afraid to take a look around at different equipment.
That's right. I think where his names probably came up is when we were talking about TPT.
TPT shafts, exactly. Yeah, we were talking about that.
That's right. So made a few adjustments to the driver. I mean, even looking through his bag over the last few months, which we've been doing over the last couple of days, he's actually changed his driver recently, now gone to the 440 M3
of
head.
the M3,
Yeah, so he's going with a 9-degree version of that.
Yep.
Going with the Tensei Orange, which we're seeing a lot of players put in the driver right now. So using a 70 TX in the driver and 280 TX shafts in his 3 and 5 wood.
So just quickly, the 440, performance-wise, versus the 460 M3.
Yeah.
Would you expect to see anything? Is it a visual thing for him?
I mean, for some guys it's visual. Other guys it's performance based. Just really depends on the test and what came out best. I mean, I know Gary Woodland talked a little bit about it when he put the 440 head in the bag. He felt like the smaller target for him helped him be a little more precise on his strike.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So whereas the 460 kind of had the feeling that your big head, I can kind of hit it, kind of wherever, and it's going to be okay. He really felt like the 440 for him just dialed in his focus a little bit. Be really interesting to see, if Rosie kind of felt the same way, get that insider scoop from the guys at TaylorMade. I mean, he's always been a blade player, so he's a precision striker.
That's what I was just going to compare it to, because lots of people say they play blades for the same reason. They like the fact that there isn't as much margin and helps them dial in the strike.
Yeah, exactly. So 2 fairway woods in the bag, 3 and 5 wood. Another 3 and 5 wood guy. It's a theme of the why in the bag guys. If you want to win a PGA Tour event, stick a 5 wood.
Apparently, yeah. 3 wood is the M4.
M4. Okay. Now we, from our sources, I believe that is a tour head, but most of the reports are saying that it's the standard M4 head, which is the high launch version. I would imagine it's the M4 Tour, but maybe we can get some clarification on that. I believe it would be the M4 Tour.
Right.
And interestingly enough, uses the M3 in the 5 wood.
He does. So kind of, well, I guess it makes some sense that the M3. Do you find it launches a bit lower for people?
I generally do.
So that would make sense. He doesn't want too. He's got more loft.
Yeah,
he doesn't need more elevation from the head itself.
It's a good point. Yeah, definitely. So as we said, Tennessee orange, 80 TX nose.
Super stiff.
Super stiff. And it tells us he's playing about with his head weights a little bit, because we know that is a higher balance point shaft. Very stiff. He's obviously got tons of speed. He's one of the guys out there that can move it a little bit quicker. Certainly swing speed in the 120s. He's got some really good speed. In the irons, he's recently dropped a 3 iron.
Right.
He's using 4 iron in the P790.
This guy here.
We keep seeing that one come up.
Pretty much every TaylorMade staff player except Tiger's got the older version.
He's got the older version of the
pretty
UDI.
much they all are using this thing.
Yep. And he's got his 730 Rose Protos,
which is probably the same as Rory's Protos, probably the same as
DJs,
Jason Day's and all these guys.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure TaylorMade have made some little subtle tweaks for these guys, and but pretty much it's a head based on that model of the 730 head.
Looks like a very traditional bladed club.
Yeah, exactly. Shafts and those, he uses a KBS C taper. Right now he's playing the 125 plus.
Okay.
Right, which is just kind of a step below the sort of traditional X Flex from C taper, which is 130 grams. He fluctuates in and out.
He goes back and forth.
If you actually look at his bag over time, you can see at certain times he's playing the 130s, certain times he's playing the 125s. So he's obviously just, depending on how he's swinging, how he's feeling the club at the time, he'll change that about a
Keeps
little bit.
the tour van guys busy, reshafting irons all the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. So he uses those irons 5 through to 9 iron.
Right.
And then after the 9 iron, he goes to the milled grind 48 degree.
Which we've seen a lot of tour players do the same thing.
Yeah, whether it's a Titleist player who's using a Vokey, pitching wedge, and rather than a set pitching wedge, that type of thing doesn't seem to be uncommon on tour.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So he uses the 48, 52, 56 in the milled grind.
Yep, which is a pretty traditional looking wedge.
Yep. Very traditional, good looking wedge actually.
It is nice,
really good lines on that one. I like that a lot. And then he was one of the early adapters to the high toe wedge. Another one of those in the bag. We've seen, Jason Day, John Ram, a bunch of those guys all putting those in the bag.
They all seem to use it in the 60 or 64.
Yeah, exactly.
Not too many guys using it in the gap wedge or the 56. Do they even make it in that loft?
No, I think it goes 58 is the strongest loft up to 64. And I think it's one of those wedges that's kind of a real specialty club. So, when you set it open and when you kind of playing those little, cut-up shots and bunker shots, that's where it comes into its own and has its highest value to the player.
For someone who hasn't seen it in a shop,
it
is extremely unique looking. Like the grooves go all the way across. We'll show a picture of it, but they go all the way across
out to the edge of the golf
and just
club.
a big golf club face. And in the sole, when you set it down, as you say, the leading edge sits very close to the ground.
Very close to the ground, very curved. Leading edge, so that when the idea, guys, if you ever see that, you go, why is that the front edge of the wedge so rounded? Well, the idea is that when you open it, it's so that the face still points square to the target.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's a little design feature. So if you made that leading edge straight and you opened it, it would look like the face was pointing right.
Yes.
But because it's curved, well, you can open it and it can still look like it's pointing at your target.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, really good. So something wedge designers have factored in. If you look at the old traditional wedges, it used to be, a really razor sharp, thin leading edge.
It did,
very straight. Now they're designing it with a little bit more curve to it.
Would you say TaylorMade wedges have kind of come a long way in the last 5, 6, 7 years? It seems like they've got more people actually using them.
Using their own wedges.
With the mill grind ones, seem like a nice kind of Vokey style wedge. And this high toe, they've kind of created something unique. Maybe they're focusing on that a little more than they used to. To me, they used to be like, we're a woods company. We make woods.
Yeah. I mean, there were certain times, I remember a few years ago, I used to play the rack TP wedges, and I always looked the like of that one. That was a nice kind of pear-shaped head, and you know, I think the wedge is something that really doesn't, you know, most companies, if you look at their stock, you know, wedge lineup, they're fairly similar in shape.
Right.
You might get the odd sort of technical adjustment where Ping might put, you know, in their glide wedges a little bit more of a kind of shaved back where it's a little bit quicker ball speeds. We've talked about that.
Cavity style at the back. Yeah,
that's it. And most of it now is really design features through the sole grind, giving the options for players to have, you know, especially in the higher lofted wedges, Matt, different grinds to allow them to play those shots that they like to play.
Video of that is coming as well.
It's coming.
Very highly requested. That's going to be outside though.
We're going to do that one outside so we can get in the bunkers. You know, we can get around the greens and show the differences when we open the face, what those launch conditions look like.
Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Very cool.
Definitely. On the putter, Rosie uses one of the new Ardmore.
That's the head,
putters. So, you know, you guys probably see this as much as we do. Rosie's a serial tinkerer when it comes to the putters.
Yeah.
1 minute he's in a blade, the next he's in a mallet. They don't always share the same characteristics. It's always interesting to me to watch him make those changes because the characteristics he's selecting can be so different from time to time.
Which is strange, isn't it?
Which is strange, you know, because when we done, obviously, the putter fit last week, we talked about how we try and match the putter design to the player's stroke in order to create the holy grail, which is a square club face relative to your target. You know, if you've got a putter with toe hang 1 minute and one with a square face the next minute,
it's crazy.
Might be a little interesting to see whether that's something he works on in his stroke or how he adapts that. But
he's a really good putter as well. Like, he seems to be pretty consistent, especially obviously when he wins.
Yeah, I think he's a streaky putter.
Streaky,
I think he's streaky because I think one thing with Rosie, he's a very consistent ball striker, someone whose ball striking never really leaves him too far. He and Foley, you always see him in the range grinding on the technical stuff. He's always trying to, you know, get a little bit more technically sound. And I think most people will say that he's probably has one of the most admired swings on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, he hits it really, really good. Very steady.
He just looks to, honestly, when he's on that range, to me, he just looks like a Rolls Royce.
He does. Yeah.
He's just so good. It's such good technique. You just wonder how he ever hits a bad shot.
It's true.
So
it's like everything else. Usually the guy who's hitting it well, like he does, and putts the best, shoots 20 under and wins a tournament, right?
I know. So just quickly back onto the wedges, he uses a KBS high rev shaft
sorry, we forgot about
in that one. 135 gram X Flex. So the high rev is a wedge specific shaft. It's quite uncommon that you can, you get some dynamic gold spinners, you've got KBS high rev, a little bit of a softer tip section. We talked about a little bit about stepping down a flex in wedges in order to create a little bit more flex and feel. The high rev has those characteristics too.
And for anyone that may have missed those videos, you've said many times, wedges, especially with tour players, they tend to go a little heavier. But then they have a little bit softer profile. And if you can be that specific to get a tip profile, that's smart. It's a good design idea.
Exactly, that's it. Second lastly, golf ball TP5.
TP5
He's
ball.
changed, again, another thing that he's been tinkering with.
He had the X in the spring.
Some people, some reports had him with the X earlier in the year. The reports currently are that he's playing the higher spin.
The regular. Do you think he changes based on the golf course? Like if the greens are really firm, he plays the 5. If it's
I wouldn't think so. I would just say looking at his equipment and kind of what he's into. He's playing the 440cc driver head, so it seems that's the lower spinning of the two heads. He's using Tensei orange, a little bit of a stiffer profile, and Tensei white. Maybe he found like he flighted the higher spin ball slightly better. One thing I will add though is that technically speaking, the best players in the world won't focus specifically on what the ball does off the driver. It'll be more around the greens.
Backwards.
Yeah, well, it's where you play most of your shots.
Of course.
So as a PGA Tour player who's averaging around 70 shots a round, if you're going to be, high 20s, you're going to play, more than a third of that round with the putter.
Yes.
Then you're going to play over half that round with the putter and wedges. That's where you want to focus, guys, on ball fitting.
Correct.
Right? Where do you play that ball the most? What shots do you concentrate on the most? Where are the higher value scoring shots? It's the short game.
Yeah.
The ball is designed to basically do the same thing off the driver. go long, spin low, launch high for the most part.
And we've got some videos planned to sort of compare balls off the driver, and I'm hoping we can illustrate that, listen, like that's not where you really should focus. It's the difference comes more around the green.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lastly, the grips. He uses a Lampkin REL. It's his own. It's the JR version of that.
He's got his own grip.
Yeah, he's got his own grip. So
nice.
He's one of the guys. He's used a Lampkin grip forever. So I guess he's an ambassador for Lampkin. So he has the JR just on the butt cap of his grips. So nice to get a little bit of personalization. Great win for Rosie.
Yep.
We're coming into major season where we get a major in June, a major in July, and a major in August. He's got
to be one to watch
nicely.
For the British Open for sure, and US Open. You got to watch him.
You have to. Shinnecock is always going to be a ball striker's test. Be lucky enough to play there. It's so hard. It's so hard off those US Open tees. I mean, some of those carries you have to hit it 280 in the air to get to the fairway.
Wild.
Off some of those US Open tees, it is extremely difficult. I hope the greens are a little bit less severe than they were when Retief won last time in 04.
Big article in Golf Digest. If no one's seen
that?
it, you should read it. It's very good.
Really?
I want to say the June edition was all about what happened that year, and it's all about actually what they're doing this year to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Brilliant.
So they've narrowed the fairways somewhat. Yeah. So they brought the rough in because apparently I think Raymond Floyd had some influence talking to Mike Davis. Really? It's a really good article. You got to read it. They narrowed the fairways because he said, listen, you're going to have another Aaron Hills where the scoring was too low. Obviously, Raymond Floyd's a member there apparently, so had some influence because apparently they've narrowed it a significant amount. If you haven't read that article, check it. It's quite good.
I really like a US Open that the winning scores anywhere from par to 5 under.
Totally agree. I even don't mind it if it's like +1 or something. It's
absolutely
cool.
fine.
It's very cool.
I'm completely fine if par is the goal of that tournament.
Because it's different. I mean, there's so many other tournaments where 8 under is going to win. You don't need another tournament where 8 under wins.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. Couple of weeks time, we've got the Memorial this week. The Big Cat's playing.
Exciting.
Yeah. Well, we're waiting for that wine in the bag. It's going to be the best one when Tiger
If he wins, it might be like a Sunday night special because we'll be chomping at the bit.
We might have to record that one in the bar.
We might be in the bar. That's right.
Excellent, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week with the winner from the Memorial, and we'll talk to you again soon.